Hi there, and welcome to our webinar about our upcoming Palaces of India program happening next year, April 17th to May 1st. I'm delighted to share with you what this program is all about. But first, let me say a few words about Wheel and Anchor, who we are. For those of you who have perhaps not traveled with us before, we are a community of travelers from all across Canada. The thing that we all have in common that makes us perhaps a bit different than other travel groups is the fact that we look for like-minded people. And when we say like-minded, we mean with respect to how we travel, how we appreciate, learn, understand, savor all of the other cultures, traditions, and so on that we find all around the world. And it's this like-mindedness that sets us a little bit apart because it means it's effectively like traveling with a group of friends. And that's really the dynamic that we bring to the table with Wheel and Anchor. Our members have a wonderful time. And in the course of the trip, they are typically meeting other people, sometimes for the first time, sometimes people they've traveled with before. And that connection is part of the dynamic that we have here. And it makes, as I say, for a really great experience. And of course, in the course of all that, not only do you develop new connections with your fellow travelers, with the people you meet along the way, but you also have a different relationship to the destinations that you visit. So that's kind of the philosophy that we have here at Wheel and Anchor. In order to accomplish all that, we have an amazing team of professionals who put together these programs, bring them to you, and who also host our programs. I'm going to just introduce two of us for now. First of all, my name is Gordon Drager. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor, and I'm the curator of all of the programs that we offer here at Wheel and Anchor. I've been organizing travel for Canadians for well over 30 years, and I'm delighted to have brought Canadians to all corners of the world. The other person who's important for our Wheel and Anchor members is our lead trip specialist. Her name is Paula Zarnick. She's the one who is on the other end of the phone, typically when you call our office, and is there to help answer your questions and make sure that you have everything you need to know to be able to join us on our trip. Today on our webinar, I'm going to take you on a little digital journey through India, through this very special program that focuses on New Delhi, Rajasthan, and other parts of north central India. This is a remarkable trip we've run before and with great success, and I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit about what it's all about so that you can hopefully consider joining us next year. First of all, let's talk about the geography of the program. Our trip, again, is focused on the central northern part of India, as you'll see here. Of course, you'll be familiar with the Indian subcontinent in South Asia, Delhi, the capital city, being located up here in the north. That is the starting and ending point for our journey. Delhi is quite an easy city to reach from Canada. There are nonstop flights from Toronto with connections from other cities across Canada. And there's a myriad of ways to get into Delhi. From Delhi, we're going to spend the first few days discovering this rather amazing city, which is partly what you expect it to be and partly what you don't expect it to be. We're then going to fly down into the middle of what's called the Golden Triangle. That's this area here that comprises Rajasthan, a sort of semi-desert area in this section of India. We'll spend some time here, go overland up to Jodhpur, where they're going to make one domestic flight to save some time on the road between Jodhpur and Jaipur. And then the final legs of the trip will take us down into Sawai Madhopur and the Ranthambore National Park, home of the infamous Bengal Tiger. And then finally, one trip by train, because I think it's important to experience that in India as well, to Agra and the Taj Mahal, which will be the grand finale, if you will. So that's the overview of our program. Let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen on each day. So as I mentioned, first of all, it'll be arrival into Delhi, this massive city, which has so much history and so many dichotomies to it. I remember the first time I went to Delhi, I wasn't really quite sure what to expect. And I think in many ways it On some ways, it met my expectations. In other ways, it exceeded my expectations. We are staying in the heart of the city at an incredible hotel called the Leela Palace. This is a five-star deluxe hotel. In fact, we're staying at more than one Leela Palace on our journey around India. The pictures hardly even do it justice. They give you a sense of the opulence of this hotel. It is inspired Indian design, but it is impeccable service, beautiful rooms, very comfy, very cozy. And this is really one of the things that I think sets our trip apart, is that we've chosen some of the creme de la creme of accommodations in India throughout this trip. Partly why we call it palaces, not just because we're going to see some incredible palaces, but we're also going to stay in places like the Leela Palace, which is truly like a palace. So when we arrive into Delhi, we'll have time to sort of rest, relax, rejuvenate. We'll have an icebreaker. You'll meet some of your fellow members on this trip, and our host will give you an overview of what's going to happen next. And then as we get into the program on the second day, we're going to really see what some of Delhi is all about. First of all, by visiting some of the key highlights of the city, the Mehrauli Archaeological Park, which will begin by giving us a little bit of the history lesson, if you will, because this is a really a dive into the remnants of Delhi, from dating back to the pre-Islamic times, to the colonial times, to today. And so the Mehrauli Park really has a little bit of everything, and it's a great way to start an adventure around India. We're also going to visit the Qutb Minar, which is an incredible tower of victory, if you will, 73 meters in height, that was built in the latter part of the 12th century. And this symbolizes the Muslim rule in India. And part of what I think is interesting about this trip is that we're going to learn about so many different aspects of Indian history and culture. And of course, as you know, India is predominantly Hindu, but it has a very large Muslim population. In fact, about 200 million people, which makes it one of the largest Muslim countries on the planet. The dichotomies between these religions and these cultures still play out today. You'll hear more about that from your guides on this trip. We'll have an amazing welcome dinner, one of many feasts in India that you will enjoy as we go along. So we'll spend another full day in New Delhi, seeing a couple of other amazing sites. The Jama Mosque, the largest mosque in Asia, believe it or not, is here in Delhi. We'll go down to the old part of the city. So we're actually staying, the Leela Palace is located in what's called New Delhi. That's the name that it is sort of most known by. And New Delhi is, in fact, the new part of the city, and you'll see it's tree-lined boulevards. A lot of it was planned during the colonial era. As a result, it is surprisingly green and not what you expect. Old Delhi, on the other hand, is very much what you expect. You'll be in the midst of the hustle, bustle, and chaos, and rickshaws, and you might even see, horse and carriages in the downtown part. And it's these dichotomies that so much are what India is all about, in particular New Delhi. Finally, one of the other highlights of this day that I think, for me, is one of the most memorable aspects of the whole visit that I made actually, it wasn't the first time I was in India, but the first time that we brought a wheel and anchor group there, was by visiting the Bangla Sahib Gurudwara, which is a Sikh house of worship. It is a massive pavilion with a community kitchen in it, and they feed 35,000 people every day for free, strictly all done by donation. And this is, again, a step into understanding Sikh culture that, quite honestly, unless you're from that community or you have some relationship to that community in Canada, most people know very little about it. And I certainly learned a lot about the generous aspects of the Sikh culture by visiting the Gurudwara Bangla Sahib. Many other things in sight for us, but we will spend, after the first couple of days, we'll head out of Delhi and fly down to Udaipur, the first of the cities in the Golden Triangle that we're going to be visiting. And Udaipur is perhaps most famous for the Lake Pichar, Lake Pichola, which in the middle of it has the famous lake palace that you see here. And you might even recognize it because this, of course, was one of the sets in the James Bond movie Octopussy from many years ago. And James Bond stayed at this hotel. So I know that some of our members went back and actually watched the film and were so excited because you get to see this hotel. We are going to be staying once again in the Leela Palace, which is directly opposite the hotel, as you see here. Another fantastic palace-like hotel that overlooks Lake Pichola and is a great, very modern setting. We'll have time to explore the city a bit. We'll go for a ride around the lake. We'll pass right by the Lake Palace, as well as the mountains that you can see a little bit in the background here. And we'll have a wonderful dinner at the hotel overlooking the lake that evening. Just a few shots here of the Leela Palace, just to give you a sense of what to expect. It truly is, again, another opulent hotel, and part of what sets this trip apart, because we've selected these hotels based on my own personal experience, as well as that of some of my team members, and again, the beauty, the pure comfort. You'll check into these hotels, you simply won't want to leave. They are really, really amazing. So moving right along, let's talk a little bit more about Udaipur, the lake city that we're going to be visiting here. We are going to go on shore on the other shore, the northern shore of the Lake Pichola, to visit the city palace, which is actually the largest palace in Rajasthan. It is a gargantuan facility. It's just unbelievable. It's got numerous courtyards, a museum. It's got frescoes and temples, roof gardens. It's got so many different aspects to it. It's like a maze when you walk through it. And I remember from having gone through there with the group, and some folks got a little bit left behind, and next thing you know, there's a panic because it's like, where are they? It's like a maze going through this place, but that's kind of the excitement of it. You can't really get that far lost. It does have 4 walls, or has more than 4 walls, but it's a remarkable place to experience and enjoy. We'll also visit the Jagdish Temple, one of many. This one has a particularly unique architectural design, as you can see here from the picture. And this is another very, very important monument in the heart of the city. There'll be time as well to go through the old market. Of course, visiting the markets in India is very much a part of the experience. And the whole day will be capped off by a wonderful dance show and dinner that will make for a memorable experience in Udaipur. As I mentioned, we'll then drive north up to Jodhpur, the so-called Blue City. And you can see from the picture why it's the Blue City, with the roofs of many of the buildings throughout the city that are painted in blue. It's a remarkable sight. On the way to Jodhpur, we're going to visit one of the largest Jain temples in the world. And Jain, of course, is another offshoot religion of Hinduism. They have some spectacular temples around the world, but the Ranakpur Jain temple is one of the most important, dating back to the 15th century. Upon arrival in Jodhpur, we're going to check into this incredible palace. So speaking of palaces, this is perhaps the pinnacle of the accommodations that we will enjoy on this trip, the Umayyad Bhawan Palace. And I can remember pulling up to this, and this pure disbelief in the eyes of our members as they looked up at this incredible palace, which actually is still a palace of the Maharajas. They live in one wing. If I'm not mistaken, it's this wing over here where the Maharajas still live. I think commercial reality set in, and they decided, well, we kind of don't need this entire thing for ourselves. And so it is operated as another 5-star deluxe hotel. You walk into the lobby and the most incredible domed ceiling, like it's a cathedral or a museum like you've never seen before. And this is the hotel that you'll enjoy for our stay in Jodhpur. It has all of the facilities, amenities, beautiful gardens, overlooking which you can have your breakfast in the morning, and the top-notch service that they are so well known for. Despite the fact that there is so much to see in Jodhpur, you're probably not, some people don't even want to leave the hotel because they've never ever experienced something like this in their life. So Jodhpur as a city is perhaps its most notable landmark is the Mehrangarh Fort, which sits up on a hill. You can see it here. And from the roof of our hotel, you can see in the distance the Mehrangarh Fort and vice versa, because both of them stand out quite prominently on the horizon. This hilltop fort, once again, has incredible courtyards and palaces. It is a miraculous structure, and once again gives an insight into the regal history of Rajasthan, in particular this region here. We'll take a tuk-tuk ride around town, visiting the local market, and we'll have a wonderful dinner at a rooftop restaurant. We'll be able to see in the panorama both the Mehrangarh Fort as well as our hotel, which is so spectacularly lit up in the evening. From Jodhpur, we make our next jaunt over to Jaipur, this time by air to save time. It is a bit of a long journey. We did it overland the last time, but decided it would be better to fly by plane this time to save some hours. Jaipur is, in contrast to Jodhpur, the pink city. And once again, many of the buildings obviously have this hue of pink, which is how it got its name. Jaipur goes back to the early 18th century, was founded by a Maharaj who created yet another incredible fort. We're going to be staying here at the Leela Palace Hotel. So at this point, you'll almost expect the luxuriousness and opulence of these hotels that are so wonderful and amazing, and with such a high level of service, and really every detail is catered to, which makes this again one of the highlights of the trip. We don't often sort of focus on the accommodations, but in this case, they really are worth noting, because you'll probably stay in some of the best hotels that you've ever experienced in your life, because they are in fact palaces like this. In Jaipur, many things to visit, and we'll start off, of course, with the Amber Fort, which is, as with Jodhpur and the Mehrangarh Fort, this is the iconic hilltop fortress that sort of overlooks the city. We will drive also past Hawa Mahal, that's pictured here, the Palace of the Winds. Again, another architectural marvel that is made out of pink sandstone. Again, this is how the city started to get its name, because then many of the buildings around Jaipur ended up being made out of this pink marble. And we'll explore that. We'll also explore the old market in the city as well. Always an artifact or two that you can find to take back with you. And we will have an evening at leisure, dinner at your own pace for a change. We don't want to overdo it. Instead, we'll have a lunch today. And again, we try to do a great mix between local and Western food. I mean, I think that many of our members really appreciate the authentic local flavors. And at the same time, it's always nice to have something a little bit more traditional on the menu once in a while to savor during our exploration of these very exotic sights and smells and tastes and so on. Jaipur has, again, also some other very famous and interesting landmarks. Here, the Taj Mahal, which is yet another palace in the middle of the lake. It looks like it's floating because actually the lower floors are submerged underwater. It was never meant to be this way originally, but that's the way it is now. So it's quite a remarkable sight to go around. There is here a fantastic fort again called Narangarh that we're going to take a visit of once again high up on the hill. And here you're really going to see how the landscape has changed as we've moved further to the east with the rolling hills and rocky outcrops. And what I was always amazed about in Rajasthan, of course, we know that India in the meantime is the most populous country on the planet with over 1.4 billion people in its population, and yet there are so many areas of Rajasthan that seem virtually uninhabited. And this is again one of these magical discoveries that we make around India is that sure, it's very crowded in some places, but in others it's remarkably remarkably unpopulated. So from Jaipur, we now drive down, again, overland, heading to the south to Sawai Madhopur. Once again, the landscape changes. It's much more gentle, rolling hills. And Sawai Madhopur is the Tiger City. And our main reason here is to check into a lodge, specifically the Taj Sawai Madhopur Lodge, which, again, all of a sudden you'll feel like you're on a safari lodge in Africa, a different experience once again. And we come down here because we want to explore the Ranthambore National Park in search of the famous Bengal tiger. Our accommodations will be slightly more modest compared to some of the palaces that we've had before, still very, very comfortable. This is the finest lodge in the area. And a great starting point for us to go out on some game drives to see some of the incredible wildlife of this park. Of course, there are many different animals to see here. We've got sloths and hyenas, not to mention various other, how shall we say, the creatures of the plains, like you see here, that look like, I was going to say, they look like deer, but they're not deer. It's a different animal altogether. My memory of all of my different animals is somewhat limited, but there's really some remarkable creatures. But the most important one that we're on the lookout for, of course, is the Bengal tiger. Not easy to see. They are still present, of course, an endangered animal, but they still do roam the park. So if we're really, really lucky, we might catch sight of one while we're in Ranthambore and Sawai Madhopur. From here, after a couple of nights, we now make our final leg back up to Agra, which is, of course, known for the Taj Mahal, the greatest monument to love ever erected in the world, or so the story goes. We're going to take a rail journey to get up to Bharatpur and a short coach ride to Agra, so you'll get an experience of riding the rails in India in as nice a railway car as you can get. As you can imagine, we're not going to be doing any hanging off the back or riding on the roofs like many of the locals do. We'll ride in relative comfort. And again, it's an experience to see the railway stations and see locals commuting from place to place by train. Agra, of course, and Taj Mahal is the most notable UNESCO World Heritage Site in all of India, not to mention one of the 7 modern wonders of the world. The city itself was a significant capital during the Mughal era, and has a very, very important legacy. There's actually a number of sites that we're going to visit in Agra. Across the river from the Taj Mahal is actually Mehtab Bagh, which we will probably visit before we get to the Taj Mahal itself, because the interesting thing about it is it would look like from the picture as if you could see it from all around, but in actual fact, until you literally walk through the gates, you can't actually see the Taj Mahal unless you are at another location down the river. And so when you get a glimpse of it from afar, the excitement starts to build. Perhaps we'll see it later in the afternoon, depending on the timing of our arrival. And then you'll really anticipate what it is all about. We'll have a wonderful dinner in our hotel for our second last evening. And then, of course, in the morning, we're going to get up bright and early to witness the Taj Mahal in all its glory at sunrise. The best time of the day to do it. First of all, the crowds are somewhat less, although I can't say we'll be the only people there at sunrise, but certainly a lot less than at other parts of the day. So we'll go and visit the Taj Mahal first and foremost, and then come back, have some breakfast, check out, and head to the Agra Fort, which is an incredible red sandstone building not too far away from the Taj Mahal. And that'll be one of our last stops before we head back to Delhi in the early afternoon with a leisurely drive and a stop along the way. And once we get back into Delhi, we'll have an incredible farewell dinner that will, again, have sampling of some of the different cuisines that we'll have enjoyed during our 12 days for 2 weeks all across India. And again, will be an amazing experience, and one that will, for certain, leave an incredible memory in your mind. So at the end of our trip after 14 nights, it'll be time to say goodbye for those who opt to go home or continue their journey elsewhere. However, we do have a fantastic post program down to the south part of India, specifically the region known as Kerala. And Kerala, which is on the southwestern side of the Indian subcontinent, is most famous for its backwaters. And that's the picture that you could see here with the houseboats. This is sort of the highlight of our visit in Kerala. Kerala is actually interesting because it is the wealthiest province of India. It is less populated than many of the northernmost provinces. So when you drive around, you have a different feel altogether. It's almost like you're not in India anymore. When I first visited India, I went to Kerala first, and I was told, I said, by the way, this is India Light, because it's not nearly as chaotic. The people are a little bit more laid back and friendlier, and it's a very different vibe than northern India, which is why it's such a good idea to visit. We're going to start in the principal city here of Kochi, or Fort Cochin, and we're going to check into a hotel there and have a wonderful experience both touring around this city. We're going to have a little traditional canoe ride around the waters of the Varapuza. We'll have a chance to see the Chinese fishing nets that line the banks of the river in Kochi. This is a remarkable feat, and I don't think I have a picture here of the Chinese fishing nets. No, I don't, unfortunately. But these massive structures along the riverside, they lower down into the water using a sort of how would I call it, like a pendulum type system. It's really, really remarkable to watch the fishing nets. We'll have a delicious Keralese dinner with a number of different specialties from this region, and we'll learn lots about what Kochi and this region is all about. The next day, we're going to take a visit off to Kumbalangi village, which is the first sort of model fishery and tourism village. So it has been created with tourism sort of in mind, and it's a lovely spot. As you can see here, you get a demonstration on how the traditional baskets and other sort of fishing apparatus are made. We'll have a very traditional welcome here, and we'll have a chance to engage in some of these activities like weaving and with coconut leaves, with the so-called kwar yarn, how we fish with these Chinese nets that I was talking about before. So many different things. We'll be treated to a dance show called Kathakali that has what I remember most about it is all the crazy faces that the dancers put on. It's really a remarkable dance that has its origins in Hindu mythology. And then for the last part of our trip, perhaps the highlight, we'll head down to Alappuzha, have a visit to Matancherry Palace, which was actually built by the Dutch colonists from back at the time. It was originally built by the Portuguese and taken over by the Dutch, who renovated and fixed it up. And so it has some incredible murals like you could get a sense of in here. And we will then later on that afternoon check in to our houseboat for a wonderful late afternoon, evening, and overnight cruise through the backwaters. Once again, this is an experience kind of like no other. The houseboats come in various sizes with 1, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms like they're pictured here. They're very, very comfortable. I wouldn't call them 5-star luxury, but they are certainly quite comfortable. I've had the pleasure of going on the houseboats a couple of times while in India. You've got your own dedicated, obviously a captain and a chef and a server who look after you while you cruise around the backwater. So it's kind of a unique experience. If there's a group of us, then we usually have 2, 3, or even 4 houseboats traveling together. You you dock up together at night, having some cocktails, enjoying this sort of quiet, serene environment of the backwaters. And as you can see here, very comfortable rooms. It's a great way to experience what Kerala is all about. And that will take us to the end of our journey. And so I'll summarize now the details that are located in our program itinerary, starting with the pricing. This program happening again at the end of April of 2025. All the pricing here shown in Canadian dollars. And we have both double and single occupancy rooms available. The program is quite all-inclusive. We don't have every single meal every day, but because it's India, we have a lot of the meals taken care of. The meals here are very, very sumptuous, very rich. And there's you have the most incredible service that you can possibly imagine. So a lot of details in the inclusions on the program, and so I encourage you to read through that in detail. Our post program, which is the Kerala trip with the backwaters by houseboat, includes both your one-way flight from Delhi down to Kochi, and 2 nights in the hotel, as well as 1 night on this houseboat with all the meals aboard, and some incredible sights and sounds to enjoy on that. So, of course, as with all of our programs, the airfare and trip cancellation insurance is extra and will be quoted to you upon request, and catered to you to your specific situation. For those of you who sign up for our trip before the end of October, we'll give you a upgraded room with incredible lake view in Udaipur, and a special Mughal Chambers room in Agra. So a little bit of a throw in for those who sign up early. We already have some bookings for this trip for next spring. So it would be a good idea if you'd like to join us to give us a call and sign up sooner than later. If you have any questions at all about this program, please do drop us a line. As I say, this is a pre-recorded webinar, but we are always here to answer any questions. You can also just send an email to Paula at the email address indicated here, or phone our office, and we will get all of your questions answered. So thank you for joining me. I hope that you'll consider this amazing program through India, and I look forward to seeing you at one of our upcoming events or on a live webinar when we start to run those again. So thanks again for joining us. Have yourselves a great day.